Well, hello. Welcome back to the studio. I had a unusual experience the other day, and I'm sure in a way that many of you have had something similar. It's kind of I guess it's a rift on a deja vu in a way. Um, I have I have traveled around to different states, but I've also moved from one state to another a few times. And I've had this occur more than once where I will be out in public and I will see somebody and I will say, "Oh, there's Marie." And then I remember that the Marie that I am referring to is someone that I remember from a different state. Or I'll be traveling. Let's say I'm was living in Florida, but I'm traveling in Houston, and I'm at the Houston Quilt Show, and I think I see Lily, and I realize that it's very unlikely that I'm really seeing Lily. Um, it's probably just somebody that looks very much like Lily. Um, I've had that happen many, many times. In fact, I recently I keep having to stop myself because there are different guild members um, that remind me of guild members from Florida. And I keep wanting to call the guild members here by the guild member's name in Florida that they so remind me of. So that's kind of a funny thing. But this is a sort of a similar thing that occurred. I was looking at my Facebook feed, and it was one of those times where it was either very late at night or it was very early in the morning, and I wasn't at my full alert status. And I was just scrolling, and I see a quilt that looks like my quilt. Let's just say that. Looks like my quilt. But there are enough differences to the quilt that it doesn't look like my quilt. Um, and I'm scrolling, so I scrolled, and I thought, well, my quilt shouldn't even be on. That quilt shouldn't even be on right now. There's no reason why it should be on a feed. So I go back and I look at it and I think, that's my quilt. Is that my quilt? That isn't my quilt. And then I look up at where the name part goes and I see my full name, and I think, what? Why is my name's there? This is my quilt. This isn't my quilt. So it's one of those things where, like, your mind is trying to figure something out, and instead of it speeding up and figuring it out, it's almost like your mind slows down, and instead of it figuring it out faster, it's like going like molasses. Well, what it was, as it turns out, it was a class that I had taught many, many years ago. And we're talking, I've been up here back home for over 20 years. So it could be over 20, 25 years ago. And this was one of my students that had made a quilt from the class I had taught. So, of course, the uh, quilt looked very much like my quilt because it was the class I taught. And uh, I think I even shared some of my fabric in the class so that the students would have a wider variety of fabrics that they may not have had access to at that time themselves. And it was the student had posted her quilt to my timeline, so it had my full name at the top of the post. And she had heard me talking about it's or heard something mention my name or something. So she had posted that she had just finished hers after all this time, which is not uncommon for people to finish something that they started quite a while ago. And it just took me so long to process that information um, that I just got a kick out of it. And also, it was such a pleasure to see a different version of a quilt that I had also made. I actually liked hers better. Hers was a little more designed than mine was. It was a little crisper, I thought. I also think hers might have been a little bit bigger, but it was a very beautiful quilt, and it was really wonderful to see. Um, the reason that I bring this all up is because even before I had uh, seen that quilt, I had decided that I wanted to revisit that particular pattern design. And it was funny because before I had searched out my quilt, I had drawn down some notes on a piece of paper that I had wanted to use some of the tilde fabrics that I had been collecting. And my memory of the quilt was that it was half square triangles in the background. It was just squares, half square triangles. And half of it was a solid and the other half was geometric. And then there was a circle appliqued on it that was um, a floral. So it was solid, geometric, half square triangle with a floral circle on it, or something to that nature. Or at least that's what I wanted to do. And so I wanted to use the tilde fabrics that I've been collecting. And it's very basic. The squares start out at 10-inch cut. So, you know, they're going to be less than that when you do the half square triangles. So if they finish uh, whatever size, it doesn't really matter. And the circle I cut my applique template at 7 inches, so it's 7 inch on like a 9-inch square. So there's about a 2 inch or whatever, yeah, about an inch all the way around when you get finished. Anyway, it's just a nice little applique project. And as I'm getting ready to completely tear down this studio again for them to do the drywall, I wanted a hand project upstairs. So that's the process. And so I started cutting circles, my little totally stable circles, which is how I do it, a couple weeks ago. And so when I saw this quilt on Facebook, kind of let me know I was on the right track. But also, it reminded me that I was totally wrong about how I had done the fabric. And then I pulled my quilt out, and you'll see that how I chose the fabric was not at all what I thought I had done. So this was the quilt that I am talking about. And there are definitely a value difference in the half square triangles. Uh, some of them are light and dark, so you get kind of that log cabin effect with half dark, half light. So you can create a lot of the patterns in the background that you can create with log cabin settings, like the lightning bolt or the uh, well, any of the different settings. They're not popping into my head right this second, but any of the settings that you could do with the log cabin, you can do with these half square triangle blocks. But I realized that some of the backgrounds were florals, some of them were geometric, and some of them were more tone on tone. And then I used the nicer print as my circle. But you can see that there's only about an inch floating on the edge of the finished um, circle. So it's a nice 7-inch circle, more or less, on about a 9-inch-ish square. I'm not real worried about the exactness of that. So if you had like a cake stack uh, set of squares to start with, or several different ones that you wanted to mix and match, that would be perfectly fine, because what size exactly they end up, it doesn't really matter as long as they're all the same size, either to start or to finish, or both actually, because you can trim them down. So that's what I am doing. But what I wanted to offer is to see if, because it was such a pleasant surprise to see that quilt online, I was going to see if anybody would be interested in joining me on this process, please. Um, it's fairly simple, and I'm just going to show a couple steps. There's not going to be a rule book. There's not going to be a big instruction sheet because it's really not a ton to it. Um, I'm we'll show a couple different things to do uh, and a couple different ways to do it. Not all on one thing, but I'll start today. This particular one, as I said, I used Oriental fabric back in the day, and I still have tons of Oriental fabric in the house, so I could definitely reproduce this, but why would I do that? And not all of this was Oriental. Some of this was LA Sienkiewicz Baltimore Beauties, the red and the green here I can see. There were many batiks. There were some indigos, uh, batik on the outside edge, a lot of batik, but mine was not very big. What was it? 5 by 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 by 5. So it wasn't huge. The one that I'm starting now, I want to make this substantially larger. I want to make it large enough to actually cover the bed. I have a queen size bed that I sleep in, so I want it to have at least 80 to 92 squares, and I have enough different fabrics to do that. So the way that I'm going to be doing mine now is that I only want one circle of each fabric. I don't want any duplicates on the circle, similar to how I did this one. There are no duplicates because I have enough different fabrics of the tilde that I can do that. And what I'm choosing from the tilde fabric are basically the florals, the beautiful floral fabrics for the circle. I won't have any of the ladies or the animals or uh, geometrics like the dots or stripes or anything in the circle. The circle will only be for floral bouquets or sprays or a single flower. I think I will have a peacock or two and one or two of them. That's an exception. The backgrounds, however, will have either the chambray, the solid, some geometrics, some of the more muted florals. Those will be a variety, but again, they will be split up into value. So there'll be a lighter side and a darker side. They will be a little bit more subtle. Some will be a little bit stronger. And I will have fun putting those together. I won't have a ton of duplicates on those either. I'll probably only have one piece used 4 times at the most. So it would show up in a half square triangle 4 different times in the whole quilt at the most. Again, I've cut all of the squares that I'm using for the half square triangle backgrounds at 10 inches exactly. The reason I did that was so that I'm cutting a bunch of them. So that anything I have left over, I can just create my own tilde cake stack and it can be used later for a different project. Because I'm probably somewhere around 160 right now that I've cut. But I probably need 180 because you have to match them. Anyway, so I want a variety of them because my favorite part is matching the square or the circle to the unit of the two. I love matching the color and the design and the play. Also, I just want to show this one particular circle. This one circle here has a seam in it. I didn't have enough, or I did it intentionally. It's been so long I don't remember. But I did seam this one circle so that there's a floral and a batik on there. So if you don't have enough for a full 7-inch circle, you can do a humble circle. And I don't know what you can call this project. It could be celebration circles or a circle in a square. And this isn't hard. This isn't a hard thing at all. It's a half square triangle and a circle, and the circle could be fused on if you want a quick project. If you want a hand project, it could be needle turn. It could be prepared edge needle turn. It could be machine applique without the fusing, like with Pellon. So there's a lot of different ways to get this look. Mine will be hand applique because that's what I enjoy, but it's also what I really, really need right now. It's a stress reducer for me. It's meditative, so that certainly will be what Uncle Brian needs right now. That's what is going to be going on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just show you some of my 10-inch squares and just how I mark them and sew them and cut them for the background. On some of the first ones that I did, you can see these are the first ones that I've already sewn together. You can see I used the chambray tilde solid, and those are the ones that I did the most of. And I'm going to put that back because I matched that already. And a lot of those are just monochromatic. There's like a kind of a purplish with a purple fabric, and there's quite a bit of those. But every once in a while you'll see I did the split complement where there's the opposite on the color wheel, the gold and blue, which always goes really good together. So a lot of those were solids with the print. But I don't want to do all of them that way. I don't actually want to use all of my chambrays that way. So some of the ones that I'm going to be doing, well, here's one I can show you. This is from her hometown. I want to use this green and maybe this green together. So this is going to be, it's not a real high contrast, but there is a contrast there. So when this gets sewn together, pretty much like that. But I'm not going to do all of them monochromatic because sometimes I want to use, I want to think ahead to what some of the color combinations are in the fabrics that I'm going to be using on the circle. And I want to be able to pull some of the colors from the fabric from the background. So there might be blue and yellow and purple and orange or ginger. And I want to be able to pull those colors out of the background. So I may be mixing colors like that together. So all of these squares that I cut, I just went ahead and cut all of these different prints. And these are pretty mundane for the background. I don't want them to overpower the flowers in the front, but there are some florals still here in the background. And some of these I only had enough to do one square, which I'm fine with. But you can see some of these will be kind of geometric. Some of them will be more organic. And I still have some dots and some stripes to cut, so I'm not done cutting. And then there are some of them that are a little bit larger print also. So I think, something like that could go with something completely, ooh, that doesn't look right, does it? You can tell I cut that wrong, just at glancing. I can glance and see I did that wrong. I could do that monochromatic, or I could do it just totally pick a random one and do that. Or pick something really, really light that has just a touch of blue in it. Because once the circle gets on here, the applique, that becomes more of the main focus, and this becomes less of the focus anyway. And so basically all I do is match up two pieces that I want to put together, and I could either press them together or put a pin in them, and then I'm going to draw a line. I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to put a pin out here towards the two corners where it's not going to be in my way. The line that I'm going to draw is going to be a cutaway line, so I'm not actually worried about using a pin on this. And I'm just going to draw a line from corner to corner. And you've seen this technique a million times. Now I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch away from this line on each side. And when I'm finished, I can go ahead and cut directly on the line and then iron towards the darkest print, and I'll have a set of half square triangles. I'll have 2 blocks from that. I'm just going to use my 1/4 inch foot and sew a 1/4 of an inch on each side of this line as soon as my machine comes on. That's one line down. Now I'm going to do the other side. Now all I have to do is cut with the rotary cutter on that blue ink mark where I drew the original diagonal line. I can take my pins out and then iron those back, and I have 2 half square triangle units. And once I make a bunch of these, then the fun part is getting my prepared circles and choosing which block is going to get sewn onto which unit. So that's going to be it for today. In the next one, I'm going to show you a variety of different ways to make your circles. But if you want to join along, you can go ahead and choose some fabric. This would be a great one for batiks, oriental fabrics. I think it would be fun for Halloween or Christmas. Really, the sky's the limit. We all have all different kinds of tastes when it comes to fabric. So any way you wanted to do it. Uh, the 10-inch cake stacks would be great, but you know, if you really wanted to play around with the size, you could do that as well. I think if you wanted to use a charm pack and make a really miniature small version of this, and then do maybe a 3-inch circle, it could be really cute as a table runner or something like that as well, a little table topper. But that's kind of the fun of the whole process is everybody's interpretation of the same thing, um, just to see where the ball lands, really. So I look forward to seeing if anybody participates with me. And on the next one, we'll do some different, tackle some different circle variations and how you can apply them to the background squares. See you on the next one.